Great.
Hi, everyone. I'm Erika Lozano, Marketing Manager at Jurny. Today, we have a great conversation lined up between two experts, Vivian Yip, founder of Hestia by CRUHomes. Hi, Vivian.
Hi.
And then we have Jason Lopez, VP of Revenue at Jurny. Hi, Jason.
Hey, everybody.
They'll be diving into everything from short-term to mid-term rentals, covering guest profiles, underwriting formulas, automation tactics, and more. So the floor is yours, Vivian and Jason.
Yeah,
Great,
thanks,
thank you.
Erica. So, Vivian, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm super excited for this one. We have been working together, I think, for a while now, and I've always been super impressed by, different things that you're kind of doing in the industry, thought leadership, education, things like that. But for those that don't know, or maybe aren't familiar with you, do you want to maybe just give like a quick origin story?
Sure. My name is Vivian Yip, and I have been investing in real estate since 2004, but I found my first short-term rental in 2019. And I was doing really well until the pandemic hit, and I saw Airbnb canceling reservations on behalf of hosts. And that's when I decided to switch strategies and try to do a longer stay model. And on accident, it turned out to be a really, really great thing because my first reservation was for 3 months. And then my next one after that was for 7 months. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm like more than doubling long term rent here using this strategy. I'm still in hospitality, which I really love. And it became the avenue for me to actually quit my job when I lost my hair to stress. So I used to work at Apple. I worked at Apple in operations. I did almost 7 years doing a lot of innovation projects in operations. And I was able to take the skill set that I made in Apple and take it to midterm rentals and basically make it my own. And the reason why I love midterm rentals so much is because it provided consistent, predictable revenue, the kind of revenue that I was used to by having a paycheck. And having experienced short-term rentals and having my weekends booked and my weekdays open, that made me really nervous, especially if my market was to get saturated. And midterm rentals has become a game-changing strategy for me to build my personal wealth, a paycheck, and also help other people do the same.
I love that. And one of the things that I really actually admire about Vivian for everyone listening is you've never so like you didn't really accept the traditional midterm model, right? Like kind of like out of the box as like the status quo midterm rental model. You kind of like you looked at what are the inefficiencies, what are the friction points, and like how can I solve those? I don't want to speak for you, but so you didn't just try the midterm model, but you built like an entire strategy around it, right? So maybe do you want to share a little bit about that with some
Yeah.
of our attendees?
I started like many other short-term rental and medium-term rental hosts, where you're afraid of turning on Instant Book because you don't know who's going to be staying at your property. You are worried about squatters. So you're like, how do I get a lease agreement, especially if it's coming through Airbnb? You're wondering about security deposits and damages. You could have air cover, but what if you take a direct booking? What do you do there? There were so many obstacles that I saw, not only in myself, but the people that I was working with. And I thought, there's got to be something out there that maybe it's not the perfect solution, but it could take away a lot of the risk factors that we see in medium term rentals. And I think when you said about thought leadership, it's really taking the time to help people believe that there is a really good model here. You just have to understand the risks and how to mitigate them through technology.
Yeah, I love that. And for anybody listening, whenever I speak to folks in the industry, obviously we talk to a lot of people on specifically on the short-term rental side, but when they kind of have questions about midterm rentals, I always say like go find Vivian Yip, talk to her because she will teach you like exactly what she does to mitigate a lot of those challenges and those pain points that that you just kind of talked about, like lease agreements and squatters and things like that. So yeah, I love it. We'll dive into some of that, but before we do, why do you think so many people are still I don't know if maybe kind of sleeping a little bit on midterm rentals?
I think it's just a lack of understanding, right? I was there too, 5, 6 years ago, and people don't understand. People think of midterm rentals as travel nurses, but there's way, way more avatars out there. You have people that are relocating. Like I relocated with Apple from Chicago. I've also relocated from Canada to Chicago with another company. And I stayed in extended stay housing, like an apartment, right? And that's the same strategy, just a corporation as opposed to an individual person. I think people don't understand how to manage those advanced bookings. If there's an opportunity, say your house next door, their house burns down, they literally have the same same house as yours, but they're not going to be able to book your property because you have reservations into the future. And you're going to be afraid to cancel them because of losing superhost status or whatever it is. And then, but you're like, wow, I would really like that $8,000 a month booking as opposed to this one $600 a weekend booking. I think it's a lack of understanding, and there is a way to control this. There is a way to control advanced booking so that you can track those extended stays. The other thing is really the big one is everyone is worried about squatters and tenancy rights, but that was my number one concern when I first started. And that's when I called an eviction attorney. I called an eviction attorney. I paid for a consult, and he said, honestly, Vivian, once they have access to your property, the risks are the same. So whether you do medium term or you do short term, it's the same risk, at least here in Texas.
Yeah. I think that's super key. Actually, what you just said is I think every state is going to be a little bit different, but understanding at least in your market, like what those risks are. And you obviously you took that step. I think maybe a lot of people for whatever reason don't take that step, but I think that's important that, just to understand what those risks are. So I guess would you say that that's maybe one of the biggest myths about midterm rentals that maybe keeps people from maybe trying it as a strategy, like just the lack of understanding, or what would you say?
I think it's a combination of many things, but one of the things that I do, and I've had people wonder if it works or not, and I've used it in the Texas market, and I feel like it works. Obviously, every situation will be different, but having a rental agreement in place, regardless of whether you're short-term rental or midterm rental, there's three key clauses that I have in my lease, in my rental agreement. Okay. Again, this is if you have short-term rental or midterm rental. Number one, have them sign the lease, and it says, I declare when I sign this document that I have a primary residence to go home to. Number two, when I sign this lease, I declare that I'm using this property for transient purposes only. And number three, what was number three? Number three is that that this is not establishing a landlord-tenant relationship, that is a guest and owner relationship like innkeeper rights. What this does is it doesn't necessarily keep you out of eviction court, but it basically helps people think about, like, what am I signing here? Right? What am I up to no good? And number two, if they do lie on that, you've got it out, you now have a case of fraud and criminal trespassing. And there was a guest one time, this only happened a few months ago, where they overstayed their checkout time. So I called the police, and they said, as many of us know, this is a civilian issue. And I said, actually, I have this document that I've had the guest sign that says these three things plus like 15 other different clauses. And he said, oh, well, that's really good that you have that, because now we have a criminal trespassing case and we can go and help you escort them out if we need to.
Wow. Okay. That's super key, I think. And that is an amazing insight. So for anybody interested in midterm rentals, a midterm rental strategy, I think take a page out of Vivian's book on that one for sure. So okay, that's super helpful. I want to dive in a little bit into like some of the meat here. So who's actually booking with you? What are some of, you mentioned earlier some, different avatars. It's not just traveling nurses. So like what are some of those avatars?
So it depends on your asset class. So our assets are typically single family townhouses and duplexes. And in that asset class, we're typically getting families or people that are relocating to the area. I would say a lot of them are remodeling their homes. A lot of them are insurance displaced, or they're just coming to the area for a work project.
Okay.
So if you have a smaller asset, Maybe you have like a one bedroom or studio. Those are great for travel nurses as long as they're within a certain price range. Because travel nurses typically spend, depending on the market, but I would say on average they spend less than $1,600. And then you have traveling professionals where it depends on where you get the contract from. Sometimes they'll pay $3,000 to $6,000 depending on the type. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it. And
Okay.
the other avatars would be like government contractors, military, interns, professors, like traveling professors. Oh my gosh, there's like 15 different ones. You can download the whole list on my free guide.
Yes. So for everybody that registered for this, I think Erica, did we already send the guide? Okay, yeah. So that, or if we haven't already sent Vivian's guide, we will send it, and you can get that for free just for attending, or I think even registering for the webinar. Super valuable resource. So one of the funny things, actually, my one of my buddies has a duplex, but like it's just a one unit like efficiency basically, and he had a government contractor that had a monthly stipend, but I guess because it was through the government, like he had to spend the full amount. And
Hmm.
so for this, like literally, I don't know, 400 square foot efficiency, he was paying like $3,500 a month. And my friend could not be happier because obviously it was for for that size room was great. But so yeah, I think that's a great avatar. Which one would you say is your favorite out of those that you kind of mentioned? Or who do you
Um,
typically like work with the most?
I like insurance displaced families because number one, the bill is paid by the insurance relocation company, and they have a pricing model that can be very lucrative depending on the length of stay. And number two, I feel like I'm providing a service to the community. I'm not that short-term rental real estate investor that doesn't care, right? Like I think there's that bad reputation out there for a lot of Airbnb hosts, whereas I feel like I'm providing housing for a family that's lost their home to a fire or lost their home due to water damage, and I'm able to provide them with a really safe, clean place to heal from their trauma, and that just feels good to me.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's important, I think, in anything you do to feel like um, there's like meaning behind what you're doing, and so I think that's great. That couldn't agree more. So I guess on those personas that you kind of mentioned, are there any signs or like red flags that you've kind of identified, like throughout your time doing this that you kind of look out for that might like
I
raise the alarm for you?
Well, ever since I started using Journey, I feel like I've gotten really lazy over being worried about that stuff. For those of you that aren't using AutoHost, honestly, AutoHost gives me so much security around who I'm hosting because as part of our process, our workflow of taking a reservation, no matter if it's Airbnb, VRBO, or direct booking, the guest gets a link to sign the rental agreement. They upload their ID, they upload their selfie, they sign, they then AutoHost kicks in and then does this incredible comparative analysis of what their billing address is, where were they when they booked, what school they might be going to, or what they might be in the area for. So I just turn on my instant book and just let it roll. And I have security measures that says like, hey, if it's an orange or red risk, then it sends me an email and then I'll go and check to see if there's anything in particular. But honestly, when I get those key pieces of information and I have AutoHost using intelligent screening, I don't really, I mean, I might get those suspicious messages on Airbnb like, "Oh, can I have a video tour of your kitchen? Can we communicate on WhatsApp?" I just I don't even worry about those guys. If they want to book, go ahead. I'm still going to uncloak who you are
Mhm.
using the technology that I have in my system.
Yeah. So actually one of the things that I think you do that's pretty unique to midterm rentals is actually like you do have instant book enabled,
Hmm.
right? So and when I talk to folks that are maybe thinking about a midterm rental strategy, they think that's crazy. But is it AutoHost that gives you that, would you say is like primarily what gives you that peace of mind or
Totally.
yeah,
Yeah. I
okay.
would absolutely 100% AutoHost gives me the peace of mind to turn on instant booking. And
Love it.
because I understand my avatar and my calendar strategy, I'm not worried about the advanced bookings. There's a whole way to approach this depending on where your property is located and what your competition is. But if you can do this better than your competition and you're in a saturated market, this could be an absolute game changer for what you do.
Yeah. So I was going to ask you about this later, but I think this is a good segue. So what can you talk a little bit about your strategy? So you don't just do midterm rentals, right? Like you also do take short-term rentals. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. So I do an STR/MTR hybrid strategy. And the one thing that people get freaked out about is like, why is this person booking last minute for a 2 month stay? Well, nobody forecasts that their house is going to burn down. Nobody forecasts that they're going to have water damage in their home. Meanwhile, a lot of short-term rental hosts that don't understand this model, they're thinking like, oh, they must have gotten evicted and their stuff is not in the eviction yet, so they're trying to move into my house. Let's simmer down for a minute. There's other reasons why someone would need to stay in your property for an extended period of time. So I am able to use, so within Jurny uses Wheelhouse, and within Wheelhouse, I use a minimum stay control. So basically, I know that most midterm rental bookings come in within 7 days. Sometimes they'll plan 2 weeks. So if you think about someone that's relocating for a new job, you go for your interview, and then the next day they may or may not accept you. Let's say they invite you into the company. Now you get 2 weeks to relocate to your new job. So that's a 2 week window. Same thing with travel nurses. A lot of travel nurses, they only get like 2 to 3 weeks notice. And again, like I mentioned, nobody plans their house to burn down. So the lead times are really, really short. So what that means is in my wheelhouse settings, I have a very structured minimum stay. So what that means is that between now and the next 7 days, I allow one night stays. And a lot of times I don't worry about those one night stay guests because they're giving me their ID. I know who they are. I know where they live. And if they're going to party, I know exactly how to track them down. And a lot of times they don't want to book a one night anyways in a house because the cleaning fees are so high. And the most beneficial part though is allowing one night stays is that it jumps your Airbnb listing to the front because you're available.
Yep.
So you're playing their game without taking too much of the risk. Okay. Number two, between day 7 and day 14, right? So 7 days into the future, if they want to book with me, they book 2 nights or 3 nights, depending if it's a weekend. That way it's worth it to me for them to block my calendar. But after 14 days, I might say you're only allowed to stay with me for a week or 30 days. And then after that, like 45 days out, you're only allowed to stay with me if you book 60 days. That way, I'm keeping my calendar open and I can keep it open for 365 days and show my complete availability.
I love that. That is super, super. I don't think people realize like how great of an insight that is. So, and just for like anecdotal context here, I I do a lot of demos obviously for Jurny, and when people want to see our booking engine, I use yours because you have great photos. So I always show your properties, but one of the things that is challenging for me sometimes is to find a property that I can just show them like a couple of dates to book because you're almost always booked up. So obviously I think it's working. Um, so okay, can you talk a little bit about what's the biggest shift for kind of on the same topic? What's the biggest like mindset shift, I guess, for somebody that's just doing short-term rentals right now, and maybe they want to kind of start dabbling or evaluating a midterm rental strategy?
I think the shift is number one, how much is your vacancy costing you? There's a lot of things that are changing in the market right now. People that used to get 3 months advance bookings are now getting just booked 2 to 3 days beforehand. So you're left wondering if if you're going to get bookings, and you're wondering if midterm rentals is the right strategy for you. That's really market dependent. Um, and then also just knowing how to make the shift. Because even if you're in a traditionally short-term rental market, let's say Asheville, for instance, right? Asheville was a traditionally short-term rental market, but when Hurricane Helene came by, a lot of people had to learn how to shift or burn because if you don't shift, then you're not able to house those contract workers, the insurance adjusters, the project managers. Those people need housing as well. And probably your property might be more cost effective than the hotel. And you would probably love to capture that money as opposed to all the media saying, don't come visit Asheville right now because we need to recover. Well, then how do you capture that opportunity is learning how to make that shift.
Love it. And in terms of, so let's say let's talk a little bit about like actually logistically, right? If I wanted to maybe use some of my, well, first, did you own most of your properties, or maybe can you give everyone just a little bit of like an overview of your current portfolio? Do you manage on behalf of
Sure.
other owners, or?
Oh, yeah, I have 7 doors of my own, and then the rest of them I manage on behalf of other clients under a property management company.
Okay, awesome. So I have 2 questions for you here, and we can tackle them in whatever order you want. So first is, when you're underwriting your own deals, what do you kind of look for with your strategy specifically? And then also on the other end, if you're managing on behalf of other owners, how do you pitch your strategy to some like a real estate investor that maybe is looking for STR type returns, for example?
Yeah. Okay. So underwriting, first and foremost, always try to underwrite with long-term rental rates in mind because speculation is terrible. You can get yourself in a lot of trouble with that. Second of all, you have to look in your market, right? So, for instance, in Austin, where I live, we have so many short-term rentals that are 3 bedrooms, 2 baths. They account for the majority. If those short-term rentals start to slide into the midterm rental space, start to get wind of what this strategy is. Guess who's going to be your competition if you buy a 3 bedroom, 2 bath as a midterm rental? So I always suggest, as I'm a realtor as well, and I guide my clients this way, is that invest in something that not everyone has. I think 4 bedrooms are really strong. And I personally love to buy in really good school districts. Why? Because in the case where you need to exit, people in up or down markets, they're always going to buy in good school districts. Bad school districts, you're going to be in trouble during a downtime. The second thing I always recommend is to get a single story home. Reason why is because there's more than 10,000 people turning 60 every single day. So on the exit, that could be a really huge benefit there. But with the insurance requests that I get, more often than not, I would say 3 out of 4 are asking for walk-in shower. So underwrite with long-term rental rates in mind and pick an asset that not everyone else is doing in the STR space. Then your second question was what again?
No, that was really great insight actually on when you're looking for your own deals. But the second question was, when you're managing on behalf of another, let's say like an owner that has STR type returns in mind, right? What, like, how do you pitch your model to that type of an owner or investor?
I think the cost of consumables alone. Okay, sorry. Gross numbers in itself in short-term rentals are kind of fake if you think about it, because there's so much of that money is put into consumables like toilet paper and supplies, as well as linens, replacements, as well as paying your cleaners. So a lot of that money is in there. But if you were to really strip down what midterm rental costs, we get one turnover a month typically. We only fill the property with inventory of consumables like a starter supply, and then we're done. They're expected to replace their own. So that's 3 rolls of toilet paper per bathroom. And if you get like multiple check-ins every single month, you're going through that stuff continuously. The second thing is, short-term rental hosts are usually hosting people that are celebratory and having a good time, which is great and all, but it also means that you potentially have more noise, more damages. So in the midterm rental space, we're hosting typically families or professionals that are just looking for a place to call home, and they're not bringing a bunch of people over. They're not partying, and it's just a more calm and less disruptive type of model. The one exception might be some construction workers. They might be a little bit more lively, but it just really depends on who you're hosting.
I love it. What, um, gosh, I had a question and it literally just escaped me. So, okay. What are some of the upgrades, I guess I'll say, that have had the biggest impact on your midterm rental strategy?
Biggest upgrades, definitely having a fully stocked kitchen. I think that a lot of short-term rental hosts overlook how important the kitchen amenities are and having good quality cookware, having good knives. If you're going
Mhm.
to be staying somewhere for 3 to 6 months, you want to have a place to call home, something that feels like home, and not have to worry about crappy cutting boards and crappy knives and not having enough bowls for everyone that's in the family. I've walked into properties before where there's like two glasses for a home that sleeps 10
Wow.
and maybe just a couple of forks, couple of knives. So being properly stocked is an investment and totally worth it. And as you're trying to attract that avatar, open up your cabinets and take a photo of it, include it in your listing. That way people can see that you are fully equipped. Another thing is nightstands. I think a lot of people overlook how important nightstands are. If you're just on vacation, you might not bring a CPAP machine, but if you're staying somewhere for an extended period of time, I think the number is like 7 million Americans sleep with a CPAP machine.
Wow.
So I sleep with one. I don't like to have my machine on the floor. I would like to
Yeah.
have it right next to my right next to the bed. And then finally is having a dresser to put your knickers and your socks, things
Mhm.
like that, so that you're not living out of a suitcase anymore.
I love that. So, um, I can attest to the knives. I do the cooking in my house, and one of the biggest like game changers for me was when I got my first good like chef's knife. It like changed my life, and now I can't cook without it. So I can definitely attest to the knife.
Don't get too good of a knife though, because it might grow legs and walk out. But you can definitely get a really good quality Henkel knife at Target for 35 bucks.
Love that. There you go. Target, 35 bucks. Um, So really quickly, going back to the previous topic, I remember it was more of a comment, which was, I think you alluded to this, but also the wear and tear on a short-term rental versus a midterm rental is just you have more traffic, more turnovers, and I think that's probably part of the allure maybe, or part of the pitch when you're pitching to a an investor or owner.
Yeah, I've had sloppy midterm rental guests as well. And
Yeah.
the unfortunate part is when they're sloppy, they're not just sloppy for a weekend, they're sloppy for a
Uh,
month.
yeah.
So it's a matter of having an operation system in place to send a cleaner, send a handyman to go in there and change the filter, whatever it is. Get someone to have an inside peek of what your property condition is in because you don't want to be surprised when they move out.
Yeah. So I guess on that topic, do you offer any sort of like mid-stay type services, like maybe mid-stay cleans or maintenance, anything like that?
I think it depends on where your contract comes from. If it's on Airbnb, those guests are less prone to requesting a mid-stay clean, but that doesn't mean that you can't offer it to them as an upsell.
Mhm.
And then with our corporate contracts, with all of our insurance days, we make it mandatory and we price it in our contract.
Nice. Love that. Okay. Um, so I guess what's one thing that you think hosts or property managers overthink when it comes to specifically midterm rentals? Or
Oh,
maybe
I
that
hear
they're
this one all the
underestimating.
time. Yeah. Well, I have to do more work because I have to do a background check. There's more work because I have to drop a lease agreement. Um, and I don't want to cancel, future bookings in order to accommodate this stay. But if you have the right resources, the right systems in place, all that burden can be put away. So, like, one of my specialties, and my mother calls it being lazy, I call it being innovative. Actually, Apple called it being innovative, is looking at a problem and then looking at all the obstacles that keep you from A to B in the fastest way. And I think you've seen how I've used Journey today. And when I look at a problem, I go deep into the problem, experience it, feel the pain, then I come back out and I'm like, how do I remove the pain? And as I went through multiple different systems that are on the market, none of them are designed for midterm rentals. But I was able to leverage what Jurny does, like what Jurny has in their system, and leverage it for midterm rentals to produce speed. Am I doing a full background check on these people? No. Am I signing a state lease agreement with these people? No, because we have a different model. But through using Jurny as a property management system, I'm able to ease the workflow of all those things by using technology to help me screen my guests, get the paperwork done, and automate all the check-in and everything. So you have to balance speed, revenue, and risk for your business.
I love that. And so I think I know the answer to this. It might be something you've already shared, but what would you say? And by the way, that for everybody listening, that was one of the things that I exactly what Vivian just described is what I really admire about her is that mentality of like you don't let something be a roadblock just because it's always been that way or it's always worked that way, right? So that I think that's a fantastic mentality to have and approach to problem solving. But what would you say has been kind of the most game-changing, uh, I guess, feature, solution, whatever you want to call it, that is helping you kind of automate some of those things that maybe previously, maybe even people today that have thought about midterm rentals still think they can't automate?
I believe that the biggest game changer is the auto host. Just
Great
to
name.
give you clarity, before I moved on a Jurny, I was doing things manually at one point. I started like everybody else, right? When I got to 3 or 4 properties, I moved into hospitable. And this is back in 2021, I think. And then they didn't have contracts. They didn't have any kind of ID upload. They didn't have a really good direct booking site. So then I was like, oh, I feel like I'm already outgrowing this. I need more than just a unified inbox. So then I moved to OwnerRes. And with OwnerRes, it is super, super powerful, but too powerful than for your average user. There's so many if then statements you can make,
Yep.
which you can really, really customize. But for most businesses, you don't need that. And it was like I'm really techie. I can learn tech because I have a background in systems and processes. And even with OwnerRes, I was like, why is this so difficult? And I wanted to see a life where I could train a virtual assistant or some kind of assistant to help me with my business. And it terrified me to go and spend all that time to train someone to learn it, only for them to go and quit for another job. And I would feel that burden of like, of having to train someone and spending so much time and feeling exhausted. So I was like, okay, I need something else. And then one of my real estate investor friends, she's like, you got to check out Jurny. And then we met. Jason, I still remember our first meeting,
Yep.
and I could see the possibilities. And I love how innovative Jurny is. And I could see the possibilities in the workflow, everything just automated because as soon as that booking comes in, right, I'm able to control my calendar first and foremost. And then I could turn on Instant Book without ever having to worry about who's coming in because I'm going to know exactly who this person is. Anything ever goes wrong, I can go to small claims court, I can file a police report, whatever it is. I just felt that it was the game changer for me to be able to accept just about any guest. Okay, let's put it in the context here. LA fires, right? LA fires, 10,000 homes burnt overnight
Yep.
in a community that's already short on housing. Okay. What's the first thing you're going to do if your house burnt down? You've got 3 kids, 2 dogs, a wife or a husband. The number one thing you're going to think about is where are we going to sleep tonight? And most hosts out there don't turn on instant booking because there's all this back and forth. Who are you traveling with? Why are you traveling? Blah, 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 blah. Well, what if we took all that complexity out of that conversation and just turned on instant book because you're already grasping that information by using technology?
Yep.
Then you're going to feel better because the people that are instant booking month-long stays and self-paying, those are the ones with the money. They're not waiting for someone to for a GoFundMe page. They're not waiting for their insurance to confirm that they have insurance for that stay. The people that are going to book immediately, they're the ones that have money and they just want to solve their family problem, their family pain right now. And by being able to book with someone that has instant book on and they know that they can stay for months at a time, that is a huge game changer.
I love it. There's so many little nuggets of wisdom throughout. So, okay, this is great. What would you say? You kind of gave some of your background, right? Like you've tried a lot of different tools out there. You're obviously using Jurny now and leveraging a lot of the different tools that we include, like AutoHost and Wheelhouse. What would you say was like the aha moment for you where you realized this could actually be the solution that you were looking for?
The aha moment was really the things that AutoHost uncovers. Right? I had a so this is like someone I'm hosting right now for 86 days. They're paying, I think, $3,600 a month in a smaller house, but they're staying for 86 days.
Mhm.
And we had instant book turned on, and this person, we got an email that was a orange red flag risk. Right? We don't really care about the green and yellow stuff, but if we get an orange or red flag risk, it said um, traveler under 25 years old, and then you log into AutoHost and you kind of take a look at all these things. Well, this person is under 25, but consistent with her place when she booked, which it was in Boston, Massachusetts when she booked, and she booked in Austin. All the information that we've uncovered seems consistent that she's a student at Boston University and that she may be in an internship in the Austin area. And the people that she's traveling with, they seem like they're part of a community that's together. I don't care if you're paying a virtual assistant to go and look for something to see if they can uncover about something about somebody. They're never going to get to that level of detail that AutoHost can.
Yeah.
If I know that much about someone, do I care if like I'm pretty much like I'm fine with it because I have their credit card, I have a rental agreement. I know they probably don't even know that I know this about them. I'm sure they don't. But like when I love those notifications, those red and orange notifications, because I'm like, let me see what it's going to uncover today.
I love it. Yeah, I'm a big fan of AutoHost too. They are an awesome partner of ours. And for those of you that don't know, AutoHost has a 25 unit minimum to work with them. Through Jurny, there's no minimum. You can use AutoHost even with one property, which is a big benefit. And obviously, you hear firsthand from Vivian how impactful it's been for her business and her strategy overall. So,
Yeah. The
um,
one other thing though is that Jurny has a really easy to use um, user interface, right? The user experience is easy for anyone to pick up. Like I have students in their 60s and they're able to use Jurny without feeling like they're frustrated because it's as intuitive as shopping for something on an apple.com website, right? It's not confusing. It's templates and triggers and it has all your automations with Turno, with Breezeway, with Wheelhouse. So everything is really intuitive and easy to use. That's what I think that's a game changer because I have like almost 30 properties and I have a $7 an hour VA that runs most of the business. And if they were to quit, which God, I hope he never does, um, I know that I'm able to train someone else pretty quickly to be able to onboard them and get so I can get back onto my business.
yeah, that's a great point. And we're working harder to make it even more user friendly. And one of the really cool things that I think I see a couple of users already in here, and Vivian, obviously you're a user, but one of the really cool things that I'm super excited about specifically is the Copilot, because we're not quite there yet, but in the next maybe year or 2 years, we can already kind of start to see the Copilot doing things for you in the system rather than you having to do it. So like block the calendar for me, make a reservation, summarize my most important messages, change the pricing on my calendar for this weekend, things like that it can already do. And so while we do strive for like a very user-friendly and effective UI UX, I mean, eventually you'll be able to just talk to your software and have it do what you want it to do rather than, having to train people on where to go and where to click to do things. So,
That's pretty
um,
cool.
yeah. But okay, Really quickly before I ask you my next question, we have some attendees here. So there is a Q&A button down at the bottom of your Zoom screen. If Ron already asked a question, if anybody has any questions, please drop them in there, either for Vivian, for myself, for anything that you're kind of hearing or learning about today. And we will get to those in just a few minutes. But while we're waiting for some of those to roll in, what haven't I asked you? What are we missing? Or if you have like one kind of key piece of advice that you want to share, what would it be?
If you want to be able to host these extended stays, you have to understand calendar management. It's a completely different strategy than short-term rentals. And I still see a lot of midterm rental people, like as soon as they get a booking, like 3-month booking, then they block off the calendar off of Airbnb. Don't do that. Use your calendar control settings. Keep that wide open because that person that lost their home in LA is now looking for a place for 9 months. If you can't show that 9-month availability, they're going to go to somebody else. But there's no risk for you opening up your calendar that high for that long if you know how to control your calendar through tools like Price Labs and Wheelhouse. That's number one. And number two, if you want, you should definitely put your property on my website, which is where we will partner together when there's the opportunity. So I have a company, CRUHomes, CRUHomes.com, CRU, it stands for Corporate Rentals USA, CRUHomes.com. You can go in there and grab your free listing. And we're in beta testing right now, right? So if you're coming across an error, there's something that you haven't done correctly. But go on there anyways, put your property up. And when we have an insurance client that needs housing and your property is a match, we can partner up together and host that stay together. Okay. But in that business and insurance, you can't forecast when the next flood or fire is. So it's really, really spontaneous, but it's about being positioned correctly to accept those stays. Because 2024, I spent so much time trying to figure out how to get that corporate contract match with that perfect house, but that perfect house had future bookings. They had bookings 4 months into the future, and we just couldn't make the puzzle pieces come together. Let's see here. We have some questions here. Ron says, where do you go find the avatars? Is there a portal similar to Airbnb where you can list your properties? What about Furnish Finder? Okay, that's really good. Airbnb is a really great source for attracting your avatar because almost 25% of nights booked on Airbnb are for 30-day stays. In fact, Airbnb and a couple of the insurance relocation companies do use Airbnb to book. I got a 2-month booking for $8,800 a month. $8,800 a month for a property that normally rents long-term for $3,300 a month. Okay. Wow. They instant book that. It's all about having that calendar availability. The moment you have too many reservations in the future or that one reservation into the future and beyond your 2 weeks is the moment that you're left out of those search results. You could use Furnish Finder. I don't list any of my properties on Furnish Finder because I'm not doing studios and 1-bedrooms. Most of the people that use Furnish Finder are travel medical professionals, and they typically travel as singles or sometimes as doubles. And they're looking for studios, 1-bedrooms, and 2-bedrooms. And since my properties are higher end and I want more than $1,600 a month, most of my properties are like $4,000, $5,000 to $8,000 range. It just wasn't a good fit for me. You could also put your property on Zillow, on apartments.com, all of those different things. But again, if your calendar isn't controlled, what's the point of advertising a property that's not available because you're unwilling to cancel those reservations? John says, what channels do you find most productive for MTR? Airbnb. I still float all my properties on Airbnb. They're filling my calendars left and right, but because I've used Jurny and because I've automated all the things, I leave my properties on autopilot on Airbnb, and then I go and seek those direct booking opportunities with the insurance relocation companies. Adam says, how do you think about revenue management using the STR and MTR hybrid model? Are you using discounts for the longer stays or some other settings? I'd like to run 80% MTR 20. Oh, that's really good, Adam. So that's a really, really good question. There is a whole ton of billions of dollars in business in midterm rentals through corporate housing companies that we will never get visibility to. But Price Labs, in my opinion, which is why I need Jurny to go with Price Labs a little bit more. Wheelhouse is great. Wheelhouse works, but I think Price Labs has more information, is to use Price Labs to help you develop a comp set so that you can see who's in your immediate market, how are they managing their calendars, what are they paying for cleaners, and then also what their nightly rate is, including if a pool impacts that nightly rate, if a hot tub impacts that nightly rate. And to answer your question, we start discounting at 14 days and 30 days, depending on the property. And we don't do last minute discounts because that's where the money's at for midterm rentals, right? A lot of short term rentals, they'll do last minute discounts for short term, but with midterm, most people need midterm because of last minute reasons. And if you're available and you're priced correctly, then you're a great candidate for them to book. How do you think about it? Yeah, so I do longer discounts for longer stays. So Max says STR MTR hybrid equals calendar management, revenue management, and distribution. That's the sauce. 100% Mac, that's the sauce. Let's see here. Anybody else? Oh, well, how much of a difference in setup management operations between MTR and STR can you easily transition and shift between the two? Oh, it's so easy to shift between the two. I think it's really just having better quality items in the setup. I think a lot of people just throw in cheap furniture and stuff for a short-term rental, thinking that people are going to go out and go do touristy things and just come back to sleep. I think in midterm rentals, spending more money on quality couches, quality kitchen, quality mattresses, that is a huge thing. I mean, it'll be more expensive, but that's one of the main differences in the shift. And then your calendar, just shifting your calendar strategy is exactly how you switch between midterm rental and short-term rental. Mac says, how do you manage contacts and leads for STR MTR hybrid? And any CRM tips? Ooh, this is a good one. So I have two different businesses, right? One is my business of renting my own portfolio and the properties that I manage. And we collect information through Jurny and through AutoHost. And from there, you can actually drop your contacts in a CRM like Go High Level or Monday.com, whatever it is, right? We haven't taken that step yet to go that far. Where we've been for the last 6 months really trying to get our VA on board to do all the other operational stuff right now. So it's in the pipeline for us. In my CRUHomes.com, I use Monday.com to help me manage all my inbound leads from the relocation companies. And I've also automated all my proposal processes and all the leads follow up. So
Love that. And just to add to that for you, Mac, you can already leverage our Zapier integration to zap contact info into, I mean, pretty much any CRM, HubSpot, MailChimp, CRM and or marketing tool of your choice. So that said, we have our own in the works that is coming, I think, this summer, AI powered. It's going to be awesome. So there will be a webinar on that, but we'll make sure that everyone here gets an invite to that.
I need more information on that.
Yeah, it's coming soon. I'll share. We have some really cool stuff on the marketing side coming. Yeah.
Adam says, how do you think about canceling a couple of different STR stays if you get a much longer lucrative MTR contract? What rationale do you give the people that you cancel on? How do you manage this with Airbnb to not damage your superhost status? There's a couple ways around this. Number one, I think that if you can explain to your guest that you are needing to cancel and you provide your hospitality service and say, I found a couple of options for you. Let me help you book a different place. Okay. Giving someone options is a lot better than like, I'm just canceling your stay. Number two, if you do need to reach out to Airbnb, you can cancel through an admin status. Okay. You can say something like, and I'm not telling you to lie, but if somebody were to smoke in your property and your last guest smoked in your property, and suddenly you need to shut down your listing and have the whole house repainted, that can be an admin cancellation. And the admin cancellation will impact your cancellation status, but you get like 2 of those every year. SB understood, as I don't got it yet. I'm not sure what that means, Ian.
Yeah, so Ian was asking about previously about the PDF. So I think the free resource that's going out after the webinar, I believe Erica will be sending that out along with the link to the recording if anybody wants to watch it back.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so if anybody didn't catch that, CRUHomes.com, I am looking to partner with vacation rental hosts all over the country so that we can build up our supply of homes that we can offer to the relocation companies. We get so many requests every day for housing in Virginia, in Massachusetts, Rhode Island, California, Texas. And what they're looking for, their family specifics, like a family's home burns down or they need to move out due to water damage. They're looking for very, very specific things. Like they want to be close to a specific school or they want to be close to a specific neighborhood. So we get requests all over the place and we want to build up that supply so that we can make those matches. And again, this is in CRUHomes is in beta testing right now. We're rebranding from Corporate Rentals USA for obvious reasons. Corporate Rentals USA was too much of a mouthful. CRUHomes is really way better branding, way better way for us to approach the business. Ron asked, do you require Airbnb guests for STR complete your STR agreement? Yes, I do. And every single one of them pays a deposit. Every single one of them does an ID upload and their selfie. I use the same process all across the board.
Just on that note, make sure that if you are taking, if you are requiring that on Airbnb, that you're disclosing that on the listing now per their new, I think it came out like a month ago, but their new policies. So
Yep.
just last week, actually, they purged like 400,000 listings for violating their policies. So don't want anyone getting affected by that. Mac
What
is
is your
asking,
favorite AI Nia feature with Jurny? I'm going to tell you I'm not using Nia. Not yet. Not yet.
Well, so I think you might be using like the assisted mode. But what I can tell you, Mac, is, and Mac, I think you were on the last webinar that we did as well, announcing Jurny OS 3.5. So that will be officially rolling out to you, to every, I see a couple of our customers here, rolling out very soon, I think this week, if I'm not mistaken. And so the self-learning feature where Nia is constantly learning from all of your past conversations, you're all going to be getting access to that. The new inbox redesign where it's automatically doing a sentiment analysis on all of the message threads, that's rolling out this week. Auto tagging by Nia. So all of that really cool advanced kind of AI, in the inbox specifically, will be there this week, and really eager to hear some of the feedback, once some of our users start kind of getting their hands on it. So Mac, please do let us know once you test it out, what your thoughts are. Yep. Awesome.
So are the people here already Jurny customers, or these are open to anyone that's...
I think based on the list that I'm seeing, I do recognize most of the names. There are a couple that I don't. So I'm gonna guess that probably most people are. Yeah, Mac was one of our first customers actually. Yeah.
Amazing. So you've
Yeah.
seen the growth. That's
Yeah.
great. Adam says, do you use properly, steadily, or Wavo for insurance damage claims? I stopped collecting deposits a while ago. Oh, okay. I have Wavo. Wavo has a product called Wavo Now that you need to sign up for in advance. But I like Wavo Now because I know that there's a rental guardian in Jurny, but it only works, like it doesn't work for the MTR STR hybrid model. Because if each insurance is going to be $50 and there's no way around it, and my nightly rate is only 150, it doesn't make sense. So we don't have it turned on in Jurny right now. But when I do a direct booking, or even if I just want a little bit peace of mind with whoever is staying for an extended period of time, you can use Wavo now and purchase the additional insurance. And you can buy this even for paper leases. So you just sign up, add your reservations informations in there, and then have it set up. It's very easy. It is a manual step, unfortunately, but it works.
Well, so one of the things, so yes, so Vivian is right. We have Rental Guardian in the platform. 2 more minutes. So if there are any questions, any pending questions, please drop them in the Q&A section, and we'll try to answer them. But we do provide Rental Guardian coverage in the platform. Unfortunately, right now there is a limitation on the OTA side. It's not a Jurny limitation, so we cannot push a nightly rate to Airbnb, for example, a nightly fee rate, I should say. We have come up with a couple of clever workarounds. So over the next probably month, we'll be rolling those out, and you'll have the option of enabling Rental Guardian on a nightly rate rather than the full like $50 per stay. So you'll have more flexibility around that. So just keep an eye out for that. I'll make sure that you get that newsletter too, Vivian, so you know when it's available.
Awesome. Ron says, if the reservation status in Jurny has the rental agreement stated agreed, and the source is Airbnb, does that mean they signed the agreement? We get I don't know the answer to that. I get an email that the renter has signed the rental agreement. Jason,
Yeah,
do you know the answer?
So Ron, there's two different rental agreements that you could leverage in Jurny. One is our native rental agreement, and then there's the one through AutoHost. So what I think you're referencing is our native feature for rental agreements, but for this kind of topic and model, I would recommend leveraging the AutoHost rental agreements, and then that's what you heard Vivian talking about today, and you can get all kinds of different alerts around that. You can require it for every reservation, or if you want, you can require it for like, yellows and reds, yellows, oranges, and reds. Just kind of depends on how you want to implement that. But I think you're talking about our native one, and I would recommend using the AutoHost rental agreement. So if you're not sure how to set that up, your customer success manager can help you with that, and I'll make sure I'll look up who your CSM is, and I'll shoot them a note so that they can reach out to you and kind of help you out with that.
And for those of you that want to learn more about the midterm rental strategy, I do have a mini course available to people that are already on Jurny that want to learn more about the avatars, how to attract those stays, how to manage your calendar. I go into very detailed specifics, and you can find that information on CRUHomes.com or VivianYip.com.
I love it. Cool. Well, we don't have any other questions, and we are right up on time. So I think we are going to wrap up here. So Vivian, thank you so much. Any closing remarks before we sign off?
My closing remarks is education might be more expensive, but even more expensive is ignorance. That's by Benjamin Franklin. And if you're seeing empty nights on your calendar, go and invest in the education to figure out how to close those gaps, because those gaps can be closed.
I love it. I'm gonna steal that quote. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Vivian. Thank you for the time, all of the super amazing insights. I learned something. I hope everybody else did as well. We're going to send out the copy of the recording. We're going to send out the free resource as well after the webinar here. And Erica, any closing remarks?
Yeah, just stay tuned for the recording if you want to like revisit any details, and don't forget to follow us on our socials, and be sure to connect with Jurny and Vivian for even more insights. So right after this, yes, you will receive the link to download your playbook, and that's it. Thank you, and see you next time.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Thank you,
you.
Vivian.